guys, we're going to do something a little different today. We've never done before. We're going to look at some just random questions on Reddit and see what happens.
Random as in construction still.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, yes.
We're
between
could go
some
down
boundaries.
some serious rabbit holes.
Yeah, there are some parts of Reddit we will not explore.
Yeah.
But we're going to start off with, why aren't plumbers / tradesmen filthy rich? I mean, this might be kind of a perspective that some of your customers think about, actually. They're going to think, wow, $80 an hour. I'm in the wrong business. I mean, you should be just cleaning up. So, I mean, I think that's kind of a common thing, right? Yeah. When I was building, I remember a few people like $50 an hour. What is it,
I think especially if you're in like service work or doing smaller jobs, like if it's a bigger job, then I think you expect a bigger number, right? But if it's smaller jobs, or you're doing some type of service work, garage door, or HVAC, plumbing, those kinds of things, people can really be surprised by the numbers that come back. Mm-hmm. Why is that? What goes into it, I guess?
Yeah, one, probably if you're a solo entrepreneur or somebody that's just getting started off, or, you're a plumber and you might have one or two people, it's very exposed in the sense of like, you come out for one day service, send them a bill for $1,000. You're like, okay, those guys make $1,000 a day, which is a lot of money. Yeah. So let's multiply that times 260 days in a year, and you making $260,000.
Sounds like a pretty good, right.
It's like, what a gig. I mean, man, oh man, what are you guys, lawyers?
Yeah. Hence the comment.
Right. I think people just don't see the overhead piece. Yeah. One of the things that even showed up is even scheduling. When I was running my business, and you say, hey, I'll be there at 10 o'clock. He's like, wait, a lazy guy shows up at 10 o'clock. And you're like, well, I've been up since 5 a.m. getting ready to be there at 10 a.m. Like loading all the stuff up, going to the store, getting material. And so like helping people see what goes into your business a little bit more, and using that as an educational opportunity as opposed to a negative, both directions. So overheads, salespeople, an office, whatever you have going on, insurances, licenses, training. Yep. All the things that nobody's noticing, the tools, the compliance, safety.
Yeah. How do you structure that, though, on like let's just say, take the smaller bid type example. Mm-hmm. How did you structure a bid so that the customer actually understood some of that?
A few times, this didn't really scale well, but particularly when I was on my own or one or two people working with me when we first started out, we would actually turn in invoices or estimates that had, most of the time it was kind of like almost a time and materials kind of a mindset almost, but you'd be, we had a trip charge, $150 to show up, which was explainable. And then you could say, then we have an overhead line item, and then we charged you $40 an hour for the time we were there, which is a little bit more palatable. Like, okay, he's going to charge me $100 to be there, $150 to be there. So that was my trip charge. And then we were there for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot more, when you only have $240 that you're charging them for the labor piece, and then $150 for the charge, they're like, okay, well, it's making a little more sense. And then you can explain that, I need fuel for my truck, insurance, all that thing. People can kind of break it down a little bit more, as opposed to just labor.
Yeah. Well, and you have to educate, you have to understand your costs before you can actually educate your customer.
Yeah. If you don't know, then how are they supposed to know?
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Showing the overhead as a line item is kind of an interesting concept. I don't think it scales well. I don't think you can be a 50-person company and
because you have too big of overhead too, right? I mean, it's too massive.
So people are like, what? Yeah. I'm going to go hire that guy down the street. Next question.
Next question. All right. Walmart, this is a good one. Walmart is hiring for $18.60 an hour, or you can do construction for $19 an hour. Why would anyone choose construction?
Yeah, right. Like, no risk. I don't have to beat my body up. I can just go work at Walmart, stocking shelves, $19 an hour, and make $19 an hour for the next 10 years. Yeah. Or you can work in construction and have opportunity. I think that's kind of the missing piece, right?
Yeah. Well, I think with the shortage, we've talked about this on other episodes too. It's like there is a shortage. And I think most people that are listening to this episode too would probably feel the shortage of like hiring employees, and it's hard to find good labor and hard to find, you know what I mean? And I think we're kind of battling with this mindset, of, okay, maybe you've got someone who doesn't have construction experience. I'm assuming that that's the case with Walmart, the Walmart example here. Yeah. And, but we're trying in this space, we gotta learn how to recruit people who are thinking that way. Like, how do we make construction appear, like you mentioned, like a career trajectory, right? Casting a vision for a job for someone who's green, right? Not necessarily just young, but like we're going to have to recruit and find people because what is it? 41% of the workforce is retiring in the next 7 years now. Yeah. Yeah. So we got to step up, I think, in terms of the recruitment side and casting a career vision for people that are young coming out of high school, coming out of college, whatever that is, or green, looking for a career change.
Yep. And maybe taking some risks on some people. We think that there's talent there, there's character there, and like, well, they don't know jack squat. Contractor I know, he hired somebody, couldn't even read a tape measure yet, but he's like, man, that guy's got muscle, he's got brains, he's got he's got potential, and he hired him for he was probably losing money for the first couple of months on the guy until he learned a few basic skills, and then he was like, now he's doing well with him. Yeah. And so maybe if you're in the spot as well of just starting out, you might be looking at an opportunity where there is growth potential, because a lot of times that's just a cap in an environment where you're not learning anything, you're not getting pushed, you're not getting challenged, you're not getting corrected, because it's just easy. Go move material around, and you're not going to learn a dang thing. Right. And that'd be a bad environment for somebody that actually is hungry, that wants to grow. So find yourself a job where there is opportunity. Yeah.
Which I mean, I will say back to this like comment or this question on Reddit though, like if someone's really asking this question, you might not want them in the first place,
Yeah. Hey, like, it's $18.60 an hour over there, $19 an hour over there. Hey, you know what though?
A little bit of vetting.
Yeah. Where you're just dollars and cents, what you're basically pointing out.
Well, and just like doesn't sound like that person's super motivated.
Yeah.
By the question.
Money talks sometimes though. Yeah, that's true. And I think maybe it's just, to your point earlier, Kinsey, it's just people aren't seeing opportunity beyond today. I need to pay my bills. I need my rent needs to be paid. And it's one job versus another without really seeing the longer term potential. So I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Cast the career vision.
Yeah. Okay. And I think kind of going back to that, like hire people today, green people, because you might feel a shortage now, but it's coming even more, quickly than we hope. Right. And so if you can grow a team right now and train and develop people, you're going to be way ahead, I think, from everybody else on the market.
Yeah, and don't treat your people like disposable. Now we're just branching off into things, because I mean, you can train people and then drive them off too. But like I remember the story of a guy that he was working for a company for 5 years, and when he was getting ready to leave, they said, "Oh well, we'll make you a partner in the company and raise your wages." And he's like, "Was I not worth that before that? Like keep your people. Like you put all that money into them." Yeah. Make that exciting to them, where we don't want anybody to feel capped at our company, or to feel like I got to go look for the next opportunity to make the next step up. We should be vision casting that and being like, hey, there's opportunity here.
That's good. That's good.
Next question is, so my husband thinks builders don't build small homes, or they don't want to build small homes. I think that builders don't build small homes because they make more profit on larger homes. Which opinion is closest to the truth? Probably neither one.
Yeah, that's true. We were talking before the episode. I'm like, a lot of contractors, builders who are building small homes are building, development. Like they're building neighborhoods.
Yeah. What is this? Tiny homes or?
What kind of homes?
Relative. Yeah. Right? Small versus large. You got like a neighbor of ours. We call them neighbors, but like a mile away. Yeah. But anyway, our neighbors have this 60,000 square foot house. It's the 10th largest home in America.
Yes.
And
I know the neighbor. I don't know him personally.
Right. Oh, you do? Can I have an introduction to my neighbor?
Why haven't you met him?
Yeah, I know. He's got a gate. He doesn't let me in.
He doesn't let neighbors in.
Yeah, but nonetheless, this mega mansion, there's only a few people that can build that home.
Right.
And so they're going to stick in their niche. They're not building tiny homes. They're not building small homes. So it's probably more market-specific niche builders. And so it's not necessarily because this guy doesn't want to build small homes. It's just he doesn't do that because he's graduated to the next scale. Yeah. And so then find somebody that builds small homes.
Yeah, which I think it sounds like maybe they had a conversation with a builder who didn't want to build
there you
their
go.
home. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just assuming. And I think kudos to the builder for saying no to a project that's outside of their qualification steps. We talk about that a lot of like, hey, you got to find a niche, which your niche could be I only build $1 to $3 million homes, or I only build like it doesn't from a new home build. There's also obviously niching up with trades too. But
so breaking this question down, nobody wants small homes, so I think people do want them, so that's wrong. So I think builders don't want to build. It's not because of market demand. It's like maybe they're just talking to the wrong builder. Maybe that's the answer. Yeah, maybe they just need to expand the scope of their vetting.
There you go.
What's our next question, Kinsey?
Okay. Next question. Do construction workers feel connected to the buildings they worked on? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Connected.
Did you ever feel connected to the buildings, the projects that you're like connected in what way?
Yeah, exactly.
Trauma or
exactly. Feel like, boy, I don't want to be, but I have serious PTSD from that project. Depends on the challenges of the project. Sometimes you do something really unique and cool, and you feel I think it's the connection to the impact
Hmm.
more so than the connection to an actual like location.
Yeah.
You're like, we transformed this home for somebody, or we
Yep.
built something that now is, it's like it's the story, not so much the where the house is at.
Yeah. From start to finish, like did you end with the customer's vision? You know what I mean? Which I think leads to more work potentially too, right? If you've actually done a great job. I think it's also goes back to the craftsmanship side, right? And I'm not a craftsman,
Mhm.
so I can't speak to this directly, but from a lot of craftsmen that I know and have talked to, they find so much pride in their work. And so it may not be connection to like the project specifically, but their craft. I
Mhm.
think specifically they do have connection to that of like, I want to do an excellent job because
Yep.
it's an art form. I love what I do. I love working with my hands.
This reminds me of a time when I was mid-20s, and we were doing this remodel job, and it was it was a bathroom remodel. And so all the walls were exposed, all the drywall had been removed, and we were relocating plumbing.
Hmm.
And I had finished all of the piping.
Okay.
And the homeowner had called me later, and he said, "Now that is an art." He was like,
Wow.
he's like, "I don't even want to close that wall up," because he was like, all that copper pipe and everything in there. And I remember feeling the pride of, here I am 10,
Yeah.
15 years later, thinking back. It's been about 15 years, actually.
Yeah.
Thinking back of that moment. Didn't think of it until you said something.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was one of those things of somebody appreciated that.
Yep.
And I think people sometimes.
Now you feel connected to the project, right?
Yeah,
Because he affirmed you.
Yeah. And it was the experience of, this house in the middle of, the sort of a subdivision. So I think there's definitely this like experience that you have, the different smells, different sounds, different, it's part of your trade, right?
Yeah.
Less so about some specific building, but maybe you guys disagree.
Yeah. Love to
Weigh in
hear.
on this one, guys.
Yeah, I would love to hear that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. Serious question to home builders. Why is new construction built so insanely cheap and poorly?
So basically just junk.
Not you guys
junk.
listening to this,
Yeah,
of
no,
course.
nobody in our audience is
No.
going to build anything
Crappy.
junky. Yes. Well, I think maybe a couple of different angles here, because a lot of times builders are building homes for people they don't even know who's going to be in there. They're just trying to sell them, track homes, things like that. And so there's just this, they're trying to multiply profit across many different projects and build them as cheap as possible.
Yep.
So, if you can save $100 on a line item times 100 homes, we just saved $10,000.
Yeah. Well, and the faster you can get them built,
Yes,
the more profit
right.
you have
and
to.
you're pushing guys to get done, get in and get out. And I remember this one time, I was just a kid working with my dad, and he had this house we were trimming, and I remember closing the front door, and the whole wall shook. And I was like, did they nail that wall off? I mean, like the whole wall moved.
Yikes.
I was like, but there was this really push hard, get it done as fast and cheap as possible. So that's probably one aspect of this. And then you had an interesting point on just the whole generational aspect of homes.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on an Allie episode or last episode with Allie Anderson. Just about how, as a consumer, I was just recently in Italy, right, in Rome. And so you're looking there and you're like, wow, this has been here for so many generations. And then you come back to the States and you're like, oh, well, yikes.
This might last 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of got me thinking. I'm like, well, the difference is when people were building things, or a difference is when people were building things then, or even like older homes in the U.S. You know what I mean? I think that we even have a little bit of that. They were building them from like a multi-generation. Like, I want this home to be a home for my kids and my grandkids and my, great grandkids. And people don't think that way anymore because they move so frequently. What is it? We were looking up some of the stats on that. The average from your 20s to your 40s is like you're going to move every 3 to 7 years or something like that, right? 3 to 10
3 to
maybe?
5 is kind of like, I think the average across all age groups is 11.7 years in a home.
Yeah.
That's so
That's
short.
crazy. Yeah. So you don't have the vision. Like, as homeowners, we don't have the vision for, I want this thing to be built well for,
it's a stepping stone,
I'm this age and I want it to still be my house when I'm 85 or whatever it is.
Who starts off in their dream home? Nobody does.
does.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, this home, it's got its problems, but this will get us through the next 3 years until the next pay jump, until the next job opportunity, until the next career change.
Yeah. Yeah. And we live in the US, right? We're so career driven that we're like, we don't know where we're going to be, to your point.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's not some small town in Italy where it's like, people packed together.
Yeah. If people were living on on land and tending to the land and doing, you know what I mean? They might build differently, I guess is my point.
Interesting.
Versus seeking out an opportunity, somewhere else.
I mean, there's probably other motivations. It's probably just the economic realities of it, and then also who's driving the decision-making process as well.
Yeah.
Like if it's a developer, it's like, let's get as many of these things built for as cheap as we can.
Yeah.
And
Brent Hull talks about a lot of the building, the fast and cheap culture, that we
had a
live
good
in.
podcast episode.
It was a good one. Yeah, I can't remember how many weeks
he can give us the answer.
Ago. Yeah, but I'd recommend checking that episode out if you're want to learn more about this topic.
Construction workers, guys, do you regret working in construction? Did you choose this path, or did you choose it due to life?
For you?
Yeah. Or did you choose it because of poor life choices? Yeah, and he's like, serious question, just curious.
Yeah, interesting.
One guy commented, I made a poor life decision thinking it was just a summer job. That's awesome. Yeah,
that's so good.
This is something that we've really identified. A lot of times people think that they're going to find this dream job that they love forever, or just like follow their passion. I guess we kind of disagree with that. Like follow your passion.
Yeah.
Because passion is often something that follows, time you put into something, effort and study, and then suddenly you become passionate about it. I mean, there's many things that I really didn't care much about that now I really do care about.
Yeah.
Because of the time I spent with it and wanted to learn. I mean, if something just sucks, I mean, like maybe you don't want to go that direction, but I mean, this guy, is probably just like, sometimes you look back at it and like, man, I hate my job. I hate doing this work. And maybe it's not about what you do. It's so much about like how you're doing it, who you're working for, what kind of environment you're in, the crew you're with. Maybe you're just in the wrong place.
Well, and like a greater purpose, right? Like I think your work's not your purpose, but like I love helping people. I love, seeing industry, I love seeing businesses run more efficiently. Those are the things I love. So I've been in digital marketing and I've been able to help with that. And I've been in construction software. You know what I mean? Like it's just it. But the goal and what I love about those two things, like I can find joy in what I was doing because the main purpose that wasn't the type of work that I was doing necessarily was met.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm excited about just a sneak peek in something we're going to be working on soon with just sort of identifying some personality things as well. And that's going to be exciting to talk about because some people are more driven by the business process, the sales process, and other people are driven by the craftsmanship side of things. And I think helping people unpack that aspect of it as well. Sometimes you might be really excited about something really beautiful that's really well executed. And other people are just like, they just love that experience of helping somebody's solution, figuring out this is, basically making people happy by selling them things.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we identify with more as opposed to like getting in the weeds and trying to go figure out these perfect cuts.
So true.
Whereas my brother is in that spot of like, he loves the craftsmanship side of it. So
I think one thing we were talking about with this question too is like just sort of I think you're going to get like 50-50. Do you regret working in construction versus no, I love it, just because everyone's experiences are so different. But I mean, construction is honorable. You know what I mean? Like it's honorable work. And I think, there's very few industries, we were talking about this earlier, that there's really like endless opportunity for growth. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to have any debt in college to start in construction. And then like, obviously if you're starting as an apprentice or something like that, you're getting paid less, but if you can find like, there's a huge career trajectory, you could go from an apprentice to a superintendent, in a matter of what, I don't know how many years, 5, 10,
Well, maybe even less. If you really apply yourself, if you're that sponge soaking up information, I mean, that could happen in 3 years.
So I'm like, if you have a vision for your life and for being excellent at what you're doing, no matter what your role is and what your job is, I'm like, construction's noble, honorable. So I mean, and
do you think there's a
valuable
stigma as well?
Yes.
Where, I heard the story of a janitor cleaning a bank, and a woman walked in to go to the counter, and she had her child with her, and he was just acting out. Just
the kid was
acting out. Yeah, the janitor was acting out. The kid was acting out, and his mom said to him, "You better straighten out, or you're gonna be like that guy over there with the buffing machine." Oh. And so it's like this stigma of like, don't be like. And I remember being in some projects where the client would talk to their kids like, "Oh, the workers are here." As in, like, you just like your second-rate citizen, essentially. Like, we need to go find some menial person to do that, some dummy that can go do this. What you guys are doing is high-caliber things. Craftsmanship is not easy to do. And so I think the stigma is changing because of the scarcity side as well.
It's going to shift big time.
I mean, you guys are going to be the doctors and lawyers instead of the other way around. And so I think there's a stigma changing there. And I think that's also, even in entertainment, you hear kind of like, well, this guy used to be a Mason and now he's an actor. And so now he's made it.
Yeah.
As opposed to he's a Mason and awesome.
And now he owns his own
Right.
masonry company.
Yes.
And, I mean, like, that's
the
awesome.
stories are
It's the
different in
American dream.
entertainment.
Let's go.
I remember a few even like stories reading. I enjoy tennis, and one of these players, I think it's Fernando Verdasco. He, top 10 tennis player.
I think it was. It just pulled out the name.
Just some guy like that. He used to be a laborer on a construction crew, and it was like, he worked so hard and everything, and now he's a tennis pro. I mean, he's working just as hard or harder on a tennis court.
Right.
But suddenly he made it,
Yeah.
as opposed to he had it, like you could have it before.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. But
Yeah.
it's just the culture we live in.
Moving
Okay.
on.
Last question. My boyfriend wants to, not my boyfriend, somebody else's boyfriend.
Yes,
I'm
you're
a
happily
husband.
married.
Yeah. My boyfriend wants to go into plumbing and eventually own his own business.
Speaking of your husband, he texted me and said that the ladder sticking out of your Tesla is a real nice touch.
That's hilarious. You can count on him to call it out, It's so funny.
Oh, man.
That's good. Okay. My boyfriend wants to go into plumbing and eventually own his own business. I'm just wondering what the path looks like over the course of the years and salary-wise. This is a longer question, but you got to give a little context. We're both 20. I'm in school and just thinking about the future for planning purposes. We'd ideally like to have a combined income of at least, I feel like we're on Dave Ramsey podcast right now, have a combined income of at least $130K annually. Just wanting to learn, essentially. What would you say to
How much
maybe
do you
this
owe on that
couple?
car? No, yeah.
All right, there's baby steps
If we're going full send on the Dave Ramsey. Okay, no, we don't need to imitate that.
Yeah, go listen to Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, that's right. He's got a great thing going.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes people are looking at career paths just by dollars and cents, which is not necessarily the way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but I think even like starting out, I wish more people would look at where they're starting out, as in what opportunities available to learn, as opposed to what they get paid.
Yeah.
So many people I hired were like, well, I could get $16.50 an hour here or $18.50 an hour there.
Mhm.
What they should be looking at, instead of $2 an hour difference, is which opportunity gives me the most opportunity to learn.
Yep.
And so find somebody that's a real pain in the rear kind of a person almost, in the sense of like, he's going to tell you how it's supposed to be done. He's going to tell you when you're wrong.
Correct you.
He's going to
teach
give you
you
feedback.
Yep.
I mean, that's invaluable.
Totally.
I mean, it might just feel terrible at the time because you know nothing.
Yeah.
But he's helping you learn.
Yeah.
That's worth way more than $4 or $5 an hour.
Yeah.
Because then you're mastering a skill which you can now apply in your own business. So many stories of people that I know, of like one guy, trying to remember where I heard this, but he walked into his new job. His boss said, here's a pad of paper. This is meet your memory. And basically, you will be writing everything down. I trust nothing that you think you're going to remember.
Wow.
And I found that to be true too. One time I hired somebody for an office management position, and I said, okay, this is how this is done. This is how this is done. And she said, yep. And I'm thinking, she is either so smart or has no clue whatsoever. It turned out to be the latter.
Yeah.
But she was wanted to please. Yes, I've got that.
And
Next thing you know, I'm getting a call saying, how do checks go in the printer?
Mm.
And I've tried it, if I went to like 6 or 7 checks in, I'm thinking, how many different ways can you put it in there? But nonetheless, it's like that level of asking questions and digging into details and having somebody that would coach you and train you. I mean, like, that's how you start.
Yeah.
And so if you're in your 20s, don't go for this.
Yeah. Don't start a business.
Yeah. Well, please don't become a plumber on your own.
Yeah.
For sure. If you're 20.
You need to be apprenticing.
Yeah.
And
Learn
growing
from somebody.
and learning. You've got to be less green if you're going to start a plumbing business.
Patience.
Yeah. Patience. And you can make $130K, but maybe not when you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the shortcuts, the influencers and all the other people that are just like, it doesn't, that's.
Get off social media.
Yeah,
and then
right. And
get to
actually
work.
apply yourself. Yeah,
to
right.
Don't look at what other people are supposedly doing.
Yeah, run away from the job that gives you zero opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is. And I think there's going to be a big, people need to understand that scarcity increases the costs of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more people jump into a field, and you think you'll even see this with YouTubers,
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Well, that just breeds more YouTube content, which lowers the value of it.
Totally.
It's a lot harder to crack into it. Like,
it is.
For us, it's not about the podcast. The YouTube has dollar value to us whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's not about anything. I never thought
Yeah.
of myself as even trying to present anything or trying
No.
to get a following. It means
Yeah.
zero things to me
Nope.
whatsoever. It's more or less the impact of sharing whatever stories we have and connecting with people is what it's about for us.
Yes.
And the fact that's why we ever even in the company we're in is
Mhm.
to really, it's a personal thing that I experienced myself, and how many other people are in the same spot where
Yeah.
they need this. So,
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of well-meaning people.
Yeah.
I'm not running everyone down in the category. It's just being like, but there's nonetheless a lot of just dollar chasing,
Right. For
ambulance chasing.
No, that's
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
It's good. That was fun.
Should we do it again?
I don't know. Yeah,
The
you
audience
guys
will have to
tell
tell
us.
us. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. Any key takeaways at the end? Just to wrap it up.
I don't know. What do you think? I know we're doing the takeaways. Put you on the spot this time.
I think the takeaway would be, if you are someone who's listening to this, or you know somebody who's eager to own his own business in construction or something like that, would be recommend that they should be apprenticing
Mm-hmm.
and learning as much as they can. Be a humble follower for a little while and
Mhm.
learn as much as you can, because just that last question, even of like, he wants to go into plumbing
Mm-hmm.
and eventually own his own business. I'm like, well, does he really want to go into plumbing? Like, does he even know? Has he ever
Yeah.
worked for a plumbing company?
Yep.
Make sure you actually do, because, like everybody listening to this podcast knows, building a business is the hardest thing you might ever do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you
Being
got to make sure that it's
being
something
around
that you
people that can guide
wanna
you
do.
through that.
Yeah. Yeah, you need mentorship. You need to be invested in. You need to be trained before you just go out and start your own business. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that easy.
Okay, so what if somebody just went out and just did it anyway, and now they're in a spot where they have their own business and they feel like they don't know what they're doing?
You better find some mentors
There you go.
and
There you go.
some training and
Yep.
some coaching and limp along. And we talked about that on, I can't remember what episode that was. Like, maybe it was the starting your own construction business
Leap.
episode.
Mhm.
Was it the
Probably.
recent Taking the
Yeah.
Leap episode? You got to go back and listen to that episode too.
Mhm.
Start there and then find other resources too. I'm not saying we're the only resources out
Yeah,
there.
no, I think
but
it was more or less just a starting place of introduction to
Yep.
the things you could do.
Yeah. Well, and an
Because it's about-
understanding of like, you're going to get an education. You're not going to make as much money in the early years because you got to grow.
Mhm.
You got to learn. Just like you have to pay for college. You
Yep.
might have to pay, a little bit to learn.
Man,
and
oh
be
man,
trained.
that's such a great example, because you think nothing of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a college education, or a lot of
Yep.
people don't.
Yep.
If you want to be a doctor, you're prepared to spend $1 million to become
Yeah.
a doctor,
Yeah.
and have all this debt. So you guys have the unique opportunity. Well, you're not carrying a bunch of college debt,
Right.
except you might lose money on a few projects.
Yeah.
You might have some hard knocks. You might not be
Yep.
profitable on
Yep.
some of these jobs, but that's cool.
Yep.
You're
it's
learning.
cool. Yep.
But just make sure you treat it like that.
Yeah.
Make sure you're learning it, being like, how can I get better the next time, as opposed to just looking at your job like it's just, I'm stuck here.
That's good. Cool.
Okay, guys.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what questions you have. If you
Yeah.
want us to take a stab at any questions, feel
Yeah.
free to send them our way.
Would love the comments, guys.
Yeah. We'll see you back next time.